Today we're going to talk about the top 10 Halloween facts. What up, guys and ghouls? I'm Caitlin.
I'm Trista. Let's get into what this spooky stuff's all about. If you like our video, please toss us a like, share, subscribe. It helps us out. Let's go.
And at number 10, Halloween, a celebration beloved by many. But the pumpkins, costumes, candy, where did it all come from? Samhain, translated from ancient Goidelic, was a celebration or Sabbath used as a way to part ways with the harvest season and welcome the darkness of winter. The village would often have bonfires where they would burn the old crops and eat and drink gluttonously. The Celts were known to love their mead. A colorful array of traditions are the roots of what we know and love today, like storytelling, costumes, and pumpkins. Thank goodness some traditions were left in the past, because I don't know about you, but I'm not about sacrifice. What do you think, Luna?
Number 9, the thinning of the veil. What's that even supposed to mean? Well, the veil refers to the line between the living and the dead. Samhain, the aforementioned festival of the end of the harvest and beginning of the winter, is believed to be a time when the veil between the world of the living and dead is at its thinnest, allowing for the dead and spirits to be able to cross over into our own world, to attempt to communicate with a lost loved one who may or may not be roaming the world at this time, as well as trying to call them home. Practitioners of divination are believed to have more power at this time as well, as it's supposed to be a time when their magic is at its most potent. They would attempt to make predictions about the future of their crops, people, livestock, and romance, and many other things. Really anything you could try to predict for the future. Offerings and sacrifices were also left out to try to appease their gods, especially in more Neolithic times and Roman cultures.
Number 8. Halloween isn't just about fear and fright. With the veil being thinned, it allows for spirits both good and evil to pass through onto our world. Families would light candles and put them in the windows, as well as in jack-o'-lanterns and left out on their porch, so that family members that had passed on to the other side and ancestors would be able to find their way home to join their families for the festivities. Extra place settings would be left out so that they could also enjoy the festivities and the feasts with the rest of their family. And unfortunately for those poor souls that had no descendants left over, the community would gather together and leave apples along roadsides and pathways so that they too would be able to join in. Stories and memories were shared around the fire so that people may remember and cherish the memories that they hold of their loved ones that have passed on. Witches and Wiccans alike would often hold a similar feast called a silent supper, where their spectral guests could join them in complete silence. Children and animals were often excused from these feasts.
Do you like to get elbow deep in the guts of a gourd? Did you make it smile? This tradition comes from some interesting roots. To begin, didn't begin with pumpkins at all. It actually began with turnips, beets, potatoes, as well as mangel-wurzels. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but they were another root vegetable similar to beets. These different vegetables would be carved and have similar faces that we have today and have lanterns inside of it, usually used to ward off evil spirits from their home. This tradition grew in popularity in the 19th century when Irish folks were immigrating more. They had a lot more pumpkins, and the tradition of pumpkin carving grew very rapidly. Do you like to make jack-o'-lanterns? There's a lot of really impressive ones on the internet. We'll show some examples. There's a lot more to the story though than gourd gouging. Have you ever wondered why they're called jack-o'-lanterns? The name itself originates from an old Irish myth of Stingy Jack. He was often described as a poor, dirty old drunkard who was a deceiver and manipulator with a silver tongue. The devil, intrigued, went to go find out for himself. Jack convinced the devil to let him have the last drink at the tavern, and when he couldn't pay, he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin to pay for the last drink. Instead, Jack pocketed this coin next to a crucifix, trapping the devil and paying with another. The devil then bargained not to reap his mortal soul for 10 more years in exchange for his freedom. 10 years later, when the devil returned, Jack tricked him to climb up an apple tree and then cut a crucifix into the bottom, then trapping the devil again. The devil bargained another 10 years to not bring Jack's soul to hell for his freedom. When Jack died before his deal was up, he was turned away from heaven for his sinful ways, and the devil, honoring his word, did not bring his soul to hell. Instead, he gave Jack an ember to light his way inside of a hollow turnip, and he was doomed to walk between the plains of purgatory forever.
And at number 6, Trista, Would you say that you're superstitious?
A little stitious.
Just a little stitious? Dating back to colonial times, people believed that a black cat crossing your path brought terrible luck. But it wasn't always this way. Back in ancient times, different cultures worshipped and even revered black cats. They were considered excellent luck, and Bastet, the goddess of women and children in ancient Egypt, is a prime example. Unfortunately, the Puritans, they changed this ideology and demonized them, quite literally. Black cats were believed to be the familiars of witches, servants of the devil, and were said to steal your soul to bring it back to their keeper. Sadly, this fear led to torment and massacre of these creatures, and that has bled into today's day and age. People still will adopt black cats for haunted houses as props, and then abandon them immediately afterwards.
At number 5, we have trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating was my favorite part as a kid. What was yours? You dress up, go house to house, and harass people for candy. What's not to like? Fun as it may be, though, it wasn't always part of the tradition. People did dress up and have many different celebrations and festivities, but when they dressed up, it was more with the purpose to disguise themselves from evil spirits than the traditions we have today, which is more of a pop culture candy. At number 5, we have trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating was my favorite part as a kid. What's yours? Leave in the comments below. You get to dress up, go out house to house, harass people for candy. What's not to like? But this tradition hasn't always been the case. Before, people would still dress up and have many different festivities, but their purposes behind it were usually because they were disguising themselves from evil spirits. Nowadays, Halloween costumes are much more of a pop culture thing, dressing as your favorite movie characters, monsters, anything you want really. But before, it used to be dressing up as evil spirits and trying to disguise yourself. In the 16th century in England, a popular custom grew in popularity among poor people, and they would go home to home begging for soul cakes. We will be making another video later on about how to make these as well. People would go begging for soul cakes in exchange for prayers for their own souls on All Souls Day, which falls on November 1st. Have you ever played a trick on someone's home because you just didn't get your sweet tooth satisfied? Did they give you just a little box of raisins or a toothbrush? Leave a comment below to tell us your experiences. We'd love to hear about them. In the 19th century, tricks such as tying people's doors closed, rattling their windows, or turning out their lights and trying to scare them was growing in a lot more popularity. People trying to act like they're a supernatural being just to scare people on the night of Halloween. People would begin leaving candy out, hoping that this would protect their home from people coming and playing awful pranks on them. Though this is still done today with people egging their houses and toilet paper, and people still do vandalize houses. So the tradition hasn't exactly died off of causing trouble on Halloween night. This brought the phrase trick or treat, which is something we very much still use today.
And at number 4, what are you dressing up as for Halloween? Drop a comment and let me know. Mom, what are you going as?
I think Red Riding Hood.
Red Riding Hood, nice. Angels, devils, skeletons, and witches are some of the oldest and most tried and true costumes that we still use today. Costumes originally had a dual purpose. Originally, they were used as a way to ward off malevolent spirits lurking in the darkness, as well as disguise yourself while you pull tricks on your neighbors. Next time those kids ask trick or treat, make sure you choose wisely.
Number 3, other cultures. Halloween traditions aren't exclusive to Halloween or this day itself. Every culture around the world has loved ones who end up passing, and their own ways of dealing with this and celebrating them in their own cultures. Does your family celebrate a special way to commemorate a loved one? Comment below and we'd love to hear it. Some of the many include Dias de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. It is celebrated on November 1st in Mexican and Latin American countries. They believe that spirits revisit the earth on this day to reunite with their loved ones once again. Similar to many Samhain beliefs, they visit the altars of the dead and bring flowers and clean it up a little bit, as well as having feasts and many other special traditions on this day. Leave flowers, food, as well as tequila for their loved ones to enjoy on the other side. Next is I'm not going to try to pronounce it, and we were just going to show it. I won't insult the good people of the Philippines by trying to say this one, but it is similar to Halloween. It is celebrated on October 31st. Children dress in costume and go around home to home. Dressed as lost souls in purgatory, they go house to house, singing songs and begging for people to pray for the souls of their lost loved ones, hoping to help guide them towards heaven. Our next one is Obon, which is celebrated in Japan. This is celebrated from August 13th to 16th. They light fires and put candles out in hopes to guide their lost loved ones home, as well as leaving offerings out for wandering souls and often even cleaning a path from the graveyard back to their home in hopes that their spirits would have a nice travel back. And lastly, let's talk about the Hungry Ghost Festival, or Yulanji, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which originated from China. People would leave out offerings on altars of uncooked rice, gold, incense, candies, raw noodles, as well as joss paper, which was kind of like paper or money that they would burn, left at altars for wandering and lost spirits coming to return home to their loved ones. Celebrations at operas, it was custom on this day to leave out the front row of these operas to leave open seats for the ghosts that may be visiting and watching as well with their families. Almost every single culture around the world has their own ways of honoring and celebrating the past loved ones in their lives, and hold a similar theme of having respect for those who passed, as well as having some mischievousness from spirits of the other side coming to visit.
And at number 2, we have Halloween matchmaking. Love was in the air when maidens would go and visit fortune tellers and seers, looking to find out who their best potential match would be. Hazelnuts would be named after their suitors and tossed into a fire. The first one to explode would be the best suit for her marriage. I guess Tinder's not all that new. Bobbing for apples was another way that women would find love. They would take the peels and they would toss them over their shoulders, seeing what shape the peel would land in, and whatever initial it was that suitor. Barmbarak, not sure if I'm saying that correctly, was another fortune-telling game often played around Halloween time. People would put things like peas, sticks, coins, rings, and rags all baked into the bread to foretell about what their future would be. A pea and a ring would mean a happy marriage coming. A rag often foretold of poverty. Coins often, they meant good fortune was coming. And a stick foretold of an unhappy marriage. And all of them together collectively foretold of a choking hazard.
Number 1, Ouija boards. Don't mess with the Purple Maiden. Mentioned in 1100 AD China, Ouija or planchette writing was associated with summoning the Purple Maiden, spirit of latrine. It was a tray that guided a stick to write in sand or ashes. It was considered a form of necromancy or a way to communicate with the dead, and was forbidden during the Qing dynasty. Ouija itself was created in Baltimore, Maryland in 1890. And in 1901, William Fultz started to make his own Ouija boards, which he said the name gave it to itself, and is an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. Good luck? That's what it wants you to think. And finally, we have a Ouija board fun fact. The largest Ouija board in the world was recorded by Guinness Book of World Record in 2016 and resides at the 130-year-old Grand Midway Hotel in Pennsylvania. Spanning 121.01 meters squared. This giant board covers the entirety of the roof of the hotel, and did I mention that the hotel was reported to be extremely haunted, as well as it's also the home of the largest tarot card in the world. Another fun fact. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, come check us out again for any of our upcoming videos and drop a comment to share what you think.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay witchy, my friends, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye!